My name is Zara Merali Sakur, and I am a member of the Aga Khan Education Board, UAE Special Projects Team. Welcome to the Aga Khan Education Board for the United Arab Emirates Special Speaker Series, providing education through inspiration. The Special Speaker Series aims to empower us to think out of the box by providing tools to help us become well-rounded individuals and shed lights on skills, abilities, and attitudes that will assist us throughout our lives. AKEB Special Project Team has enlisted exceptional global speakers who are experts in their respective fields and also serve as role models. During our five-part series over 10 weeks, our topics will build upon each other, leading towards a 360 degrees development. The speakers will address different topics focused on personal development and engage in a moderated discussion to underscore the value of shared information and insights. Today, we are pleased to present our second session with Izzat Begum Rajan and Azul Jafar Jaraj. Let me first take a little bit of time to speak a little bit about them. Izzat Begum is a qualified international tax lawyer and serves as a director of philanthropic and or educational organizations. She holds an LLM in law of international finance and Islamic law, finance and tax from the University of London, and her experience includes serving as the legal member on the Ismaili Council for France and as a certified trainer in the AKEB system since 2005. Azul is a practicing lawyer and a former two-term member of the Regional Conciliation and Arbitration Board for British Columbia. He received his Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Western Ontario and a Bachelor's of Laws degree from the University of Victoria. He currently practices in the areas of family law, wills and estates, and civil litigation. Azul has been a CEDAR accredited mediator and ICAP certified trainer since 2005. As both Azul and Izzat are certified mediation trainers with ICAP, they also bring an ethical approach to conflict resolution. We are very grateful to the chair and the team at the International Conciliation and Arbitration Board for their support with today's presentations. We are so fortunate to have Izzat and Azul with us today to talk about positive problem-solving skills, solving everyday problems with empathy. We will have time for question and answer at the end, so please do put your questions into the Q&A box. On behalf of all of us, we would like to extend a very special thank you to you, Izzat and Azul, for making time to be here today. Now, over to you, Izzat and Azul.
Thank you, Zara, for that introduction. We are both pleased to be here today to address this very important subject. In our short presentation, we're going to speak to you about what are conflicts and why they occur. We're going to provide you with some tools to deal with them easily. And lastly, we're going to demonstrate how to use those tools working through a scenario. We provided some reading material, and we hope you have a chance to take a look at it. The last year has been particularly difficult, with many of us working from home or studying from home. We're unable to see our friends or family, and it's easy to get frustrated with one another. Conflicts can easily arise. Life will always have conflict. The issue is not avoiding conflict, but rather dealing with it effectively. We're hopeful after our session today, you will have tools that will help you navigate through conflict without causing harm to those whom you love and care for. We can switch to our agenda slide. Perfect. During our presentation, we're going to work through a case scenario. We're going to discuss what is conflict and why it occurs, provide you with some techniques that we have found helpful to handle conflicts, discuss how to apply ethics to conflicts, and lastly, share why it is important to resolve conflicts in a peaceful manner. So with that, we'd like to take you through a short scenario on the next slide. Adam is a free-spirited 17-year-old young man. He's very social and outgoing and is fond of going to the movies, out for dinners, and engaging in other social activities with his friends. Everything else isn't as important to him. That includes his studies and attending Jamaat Khana. After Adam and his parents began the process of applying to universities, Adam found himself always being behind with his university applications, mainly because he spent most of his free time playing video games and being on social media. One day, Adam's parents learned that he missed the deadline for applying to several key universities. Every time they asked him about his applications, Adam would simply tell them that he was almost done with them, when in fact, he had hardly even started. Adam's parents lost it. They got so upset with him that they took away his iPhone, iPad, laptop, and video game console. They decided that he could no longer go out with his friends until he finished the rest of his applications. Adam yelled back at his parents and claimed that they had no right to take away his technology and to prohibit him from going out with his friends. After constant yelling at each other, Adam left the house.
As we go to the next slide, we will give you a short definition of what a conflict is and why it occurred between Adam and his parents. So on the next slide, as you can see, a conflict occurs when two people fight, disagree, and argue about something. In other words, a conflict is when there is a disagreement between people with different views or ideas. Knowing why conflicts occur requires understanding the role that ethics play in conflicts. If people act ethically and in pursuit of the common good, they will work towards resolving their conflicts with a spirit of fairness and equity. This will lead to them being able to resolve their conflicts in a more peaceful and ethical manner. The reason why a conflict occurred here between Adam and his parents is, and usually it is the case for most people, is because they disagree about something, and that disagreement is based on a difference of values, ideas, needs, or wants. And people are different, so it's normal and expected for conflicts to occur. The challenging part of dealing with a conflict is how to manage it. Conflicts often create an emotional response such as anger, frustration, or sadness. And in our presentation today, we will address how to resolve a conflict and how to handle emotional reactions. As we turn to the next slide, Azul will now tell you more about how to navigate conflict.
How to navigate a conflict requires an understanding of why people feel the way they do about a particular situation. In order to better understand why and how others feel, it is important to listen and to listen actively, not to simply provide our own solutions. In the last few decades, behavioral scientists have coined the phrase active listening as a way to improve our communication. Active listening is defined as not only listening to the words, but understanding the message being conveyed behind the words. This includes focusing on hidden signals and emotions being conveyed by the speaker using both verbal and nonverbal communication. Verbal communication is when messages or information are communicated through words. On the other hand, nonverbal communication is a mode of expression that does not rely on words. Examples could be body language, facial expressions, vocal tone, eye contact, and perhaps even a lack of eye contact. So let's go back to the scenario between Adam and his parents. One of the main reasons for conflict is that those involved do not clearly hear or understand the other person. What Adam wants, if I can summarize, is to have fun now. On the other hand, his parents want to ensure that he is well prepared for his future with a good education. One of the obvious problems in this scenario is that both parents and child have not heard one another. Isit's now going to give you some examples of how modifying your way of listening can reduce conflict.
So there are various levels of listening, and as well as various techniques to improve listening skills. These skills can be learned, and if applied correctly, can have a tremendous impact on one's quality of life. We would like to talk to you about 5 different levels of listening. Level 1, waiting for our turn to speak. Here, too often, we're thinking about what we want to say next rather than listening. Level 2, relating words to our own experience. Other times, we're making the conflict about us and giving examples from our own lives. Level 3, giving advice. We do have a tendency to provide advice without even being asked to. And levels 5, 4, and 5, these are the levels of active listening. So here on the next slide, I would like to take you through a little bit more in details to have a look at the 5 levels of listening. And Azul, if you please kindly help me, you're going to play the role of Adam, and I will be playing the role of the mother.
Mom, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next.
Adam, now enough, just send them in. You have procrastinated for too long. This is level 1. You can hear that the mother is actually not listening at all. She's simply thinking about her own train of thought. Asking questions is good, but timing is so critical, as here the mother is clearly missing important information that Adam is conveying. She's basically not paying proper attention. Let's try again.
Mom, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next.
Look, Adam, when I was your age, I knew exactly what I wanted to do in college. I had my applications completed and sent them in long before the deadlines. This is level 2. As you can hear, the mother seems to be listening, but is more focused on relating what Adam is saying to her own experience. The mother could improve her listening skills by staying focused on Adam to better understand his interests and feelings. Let's try again a little bit differently.
Mom, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next.
Look, Adam, what you need to do is first to look at the application forms. Then you can complete a rough draft. And once that's done, you can give them to your dad and I for finalizing and then submitting them. This is level 3, giving advice. The mother is responding by doing so, despite the fact that the advice is unsolicited. Now let's try again, but with being even more active when listening.
Mom, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next.
My dear Adam, if I hear you well, you're struggling and you would like some feedback. Would you like some help before we get started?
Please.
This is level 4, active listening. Now you can see that the mother is trying to listen better, wants to know more. She also encourages Adam to share more, knowing that his mom is a bit more engaged. Now let's try one more time.
Mom, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next.
My dear Adam, if I hear you well, you're struggling and you would like some feedback. I understand this process is not easy for you, and I can see it's difficult because you feel your applications will basically determine the rest of your life. But we're here for you, your dad and I, and we will help you in whatever way we can. Level 5 is active listening plus, if one can call it like that. Here is where we should all strive to be. The listener will demonstrate curiosity and an interest to learn more. In this case, this results in the mother recognizing Adam's emotions and feelings, as well as his interests, his fears, concerns, and needs. In this last example, you can see that Adam naturally responded in a positive manner to his mother. And there are many concepts of listening, but the goal is the same: being able to truly listen to and understand the speaker. You will hear us today repeatedly use the word empathy during our presentation. What do we mean by that? Empathy means experiencing someone else's feelings. It's about understanding the depth of the other person's feelings. And it's important not to confuse sympathy with empathy. Sympathy means understanding someone else's suffering. Therefore, empathetic listening is a way of listening and responding to another person that improves mutual understanding and trust.
At the beginning of this session, I said that we'd be providing you with tools. It's now provided you with the tool of active listening. As we move to the next slide, we're going to share 3 more techniques with you. The first technique is that of de-escalating tension. This is when we approach a situation in an empathetic manner. This is important as it allows people to vent and let out steam, and therefore allows us to focus on the true issue. Applying it to the scenario, Adam's mom could have de-escalated the tension simply by demonstrating that she was ready to listen rather than telling Adam what to do. We have included in the materials a conflict wheel which provides options to de-escalate tensions. So let's move on to the next technique on the next slide. And that is keeping an open mind. This is when we approach a situation without being judgmental. Why is this important? It allows people to have conversations without bringing in their own biases. If I keep an open mind when in conflict, that allows me to be more empathetic to how you feel, even if I disagree with you. I still need to understand how you feel, and that requires empathy. If I'm more empathetic, I'm more likely to have an open mind, even if I disagree with you. Applying it to the scenario, Adam's parents assume that Adam was more interested in technology or that he was a procrastinator, rather than curiously trying to determine what was holding him back from completing his application forms. Adam could have also kept an open mind by reaching out to his parents for help rather than assuming that they would be upset that he had not completed his application forms or even started them. So let's move on now to the third technique, and that is dealing with emotions. As human beings, we experience different kinds of emotions. It may not be something that we think about or even speak about very often, but they are always present. It is useful to normalize the experience of emotions as they cannot be denied. And if you ignore them either in yourself or others, it will be extremely difficult for you to make progress with any dialogue. When faced with an emotional response from another person, there are 3 things we should do. To remember these 3 things, we call them the 3 R's, and we have them on the next slide. First, we must recognize our emotions as well as those of others. Second, we must respect the emotion without judging the emotion or how it will be expressed. For example, hurt leading to crying, We must accept the emotion as genuine and as part of the situation and take it seriously. And lastly, respond to the emotion with compassion and not with assumptions about what is causing the emotional response. So we are now going to demonstrate both how to and how not to deal with emotions. Let's listen to an earlier conversation between Adam and his mother before he missed the deadline. We will first demonstrate what not to do. Mom and Dad, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next. I'm confused about what to write in my personal essay, and my friends' parents are helping them with their applications. Can you please help me with my essay?
Adam, no way. Enough procrastination. Now just send them in. We're so tired of always helping you at the last minute. It's just not fair to us. You've been procrastinating, postponing, then you come to us for help at the last minute. You really need to be more respectful of our time.
So now let's see how Adam's mother could have done it differently by keeping in mind the 3 R's. Mom and Dad, I know you want me to send in my applications, but I'm not sure what to do next. I'm confused about what to write in my personal essay, and my friends' parents are helping them with their applications. Could you please help me with my essay?
My dear son, it sounds like you're confused and a bit scared. And your father and I would be more than happy to sit with you and help you progress your applications forward. Shall we just make a plan?
Applying it to the scenario, Adam's mom initially took an aggressive tone rather than remembering the 3 R's. The second time, by acknowledging Adam's feelings, his mom recognized that Adam was confused and that he was worried about not being able to complete his application in time. She respected his emotion when she acknowledged his emotions with compassion and love and without any judgment, as opposed to the first example when she was judgmental. Finally, Adam's mom responded by asking him if the 3 of them could sit together to discuss his application. Now, Adam too could have taken a moment when his parents first got upset and acknowledged his parents' emotions, received them, and only then responded. We are not effective communicators all of the time. However, if you use some of the tools we have just shared with you, they will make it a lot easier for you to have meaningful conversations with those you care about most. When people are in conflict and we acknowledge each other's emotions, that results in our being kind to one another. When people are in conflict and we understand how to deal with one another's emotions, we can de-escalate tensions, which may otherwise be difficult to overcome. Lastly, by keeping an open mind, it makes it much easier to listen actively. Listening truly is an art, and if we all put more effort into listening and understanding in our daily lives, we are more likely to have thriving, authentic, and empathetic relationships.
As we move on to the next slide, in addition to using these techniques, it's important to know the role that ethics play in navigating conflicts. It is important to remember that navigating a conflict requires understanding the other's feelings and point of view. Doing so helps create a culture in which a conflict can be resolved in a peaceful manner. Let's have a look at the wheel of ethics on the next slide, because there are several ethics that help provide an ethical culture for resolving conflicts, including the following. The ethic of harmony. This is viewing each other not as adversaries, but as a member of your family, and therefore seeing any dispute as a family dispute, which needs a harmonious outcome. If we approach conflicts in this way, remembering that we are brothers and sisters, that can assist us in resolving disputes, whether with our friends, our teachers, or our employer. The ethic of integrity. This requires being honest and true to yourselves and to each other. No matter how bad a dispute, we must always behave in an honest manner, as after most disputes, we must continue to work and live with the other person. Maintaining relationships requires trust. Ethic of dignity. This is about being respectful and decent towards each other. It is very easy to harm the other person when we're angry or frustrated or feeling negative emotions. We must stop ourselves from getting to that point, because at the end, when it is time to heal, we never want the other party to doubt our intentions or what we have said or done. The ethic of empathy. This is about listening to each other and trying to understand each other's views without judgment. If we can leave you with one important message today, it is the importance of empathy in our dealing with one another. If you remember, empathy means experiencing someone else's feelings. Remember the 3 R's that Azul spoke about earlier of recognize, respect, and respond. The ethic of fair dialogue. It means that we engage dialogue where we listen to each other with empathy and communicate with integrity and respect. We use the word empathy here again, as we can only behave fairly if we consider the other person's needs. You will need to work extra hard to ensure that fair dialogue is maintained, and we do know that is not an easy thing to do. Ethic of collaborative engagement. This is about working together in a spirit of compromise to find creative solutions. And Nelson Mandela is an excellent example of someone who worked collaboratively despite being involved in extreme conflict and having been imprisoned for 27 years and treated horribly by the South African authorities. The ethic of equity. This is about acting fairly in the spirit of compromise again, in a search for the common good and the willingness to solve the conflict, and eventually to forgive. Though Islam teaches all of the principles above, equity is so important that we have left it as the last principle to discuss. The willingness to forgive is an inward-looking process. It is very personal. Offering an apology to the other person is an outward-looking process. Beyond just the resolution of the conflict, peace in your heart, willingness to forgive, and eventually offering an apology will all help you heal after a conflict. After engaging in a conflict, it is important to take that time to heal. Working to resolve conflicts with an ethical lens can help each person better understand the other's views and feelings, while also providing the opportunity to resolve the conflict in a constructive manner. If either Adam or his parents had considered any of these 7 ethics in their discussions, the outcome could have been very different, even without the active listening and the 3 R's. In conjunction with those tools, Adam and his parents could have had a very productive conversation.
So as we move to the next slide, why is it important to be able to resolve or manage conflicts in a peaceful manner? There are 2 main reasons why it is important to know how to manage conflicts in a peaceful manner. First, keeping an open mind allows us to acknowledge and respect different views. As we go to the next slide, we would like to share a quote from His Highness the Aga Khan from the Samuel L. and Elizabeth Jodidi Lecture at Harvard University. A pluralist cosmopolitan society is a society which not only accepts difference, but actively seeks to understand it and learn from it. In this perspective, diversity is not a burden to be endured, but an opportunity to be welcomed. What this means, above all else, is a readiness to participate in a true dialogue with diversity, not only in our personal relationships, but in institutional and international relationships also. But that takes work and it takes patience. Above all, it implies a readiness to listen. What is needed, as the former Governor General of Canada, Adrienne Clarkson, has said, and I quote, is a readiness to listen to your neighbor even when you may not particularly like them. Is that message clear? You listen to people you don't like. If we consider Adam and his parents kept in mind patience, perhaps their conflict may not have escalated to the level where Adam's technology was taken away. And at the same time, he could have opened up to his parents about what he was thinking and how he was struggling. We go on to the next slide. The other reason is peaceful resolution of the conflict will lead to improve our quality of life through genuine dialogue, which includes listening, being empathetic, and the will to accept and appreciate differences. I'd like to refer to speech of His Highness the Aga Khan at the International New York Times Athens Democracy Forum. At the heart of a democratic ethic is a commitment to genuine dialogue to achieve a better quality of life, even across new barriers of distance and diversity. This means a readiness to give and take, to listen, to bridge the empathy gaps, as well as the ignorance gaps that have so often impeded human progress. It implies a pluralistic readiness to welcome diversity and to see our differences not as difficult burdens, but as potential blessings. If Adam and his parents continue to work together and communicate effectively, they will ease the tensions while supporting Adam in the process of submitting his college applications. This will also help the family have a new positive dynamic, which would support Adam as he enters adulthood.
So let's put all this together on the next slide and summarize what we covered in today's session using the scenario of Adam and his parents. Number one, de-escalation. Either Adam or his parents could have been more empathetic and understanding of each other, and as a result, could have de-escalated the tension between them. Number two, keep an open mind. Adam and his parents had both already decided what the other was thinking even before hearing from them. If they kept an open mind, perhaps through actively listening, the parents would have allowed Adam to truly share what he was thinking, knowing that it was okay to do so. Similarly, if Adam kept an open mind, he would have truly heard his parents and understood why they were frustrated. Number three, deal with emotions. Here, Adam and his parents had strong emotions. By using the 3 R's, they would have recognized how they each felt. They would have respected their emotions and feelings, and finally, they would have responded with empathy and compassion. So do remember to use the 3 R's: recognize, respect, and respond. 4, apply the ethics. Lastly, as I explained earlier, either Adam or his parents could have kept in mind one or several of the ethics which would have led to better conversations in their homes. It is important to keep in mind the need to have harmony in relationships and to treat each other with respect and dignity to be empathetic to each other's feelings, to be honest, and to be fair, so we all work together to resolve the conflict in a peaceful manner. What we have discussed today basically boils down to two key messages. Conflicts cannot be resolved unless we learn to actively listen and have empathy. Number two, this is not easy. We should prioritize and apply these techniques in our everyday lives.
So before we take some questions, we'd like to bring it all together and would like to leave you with some final quotes as we go to the next slide. Epictetus, the Greek philosopher, said, "We have one mouth and two ears. It is to listen twice as much as we speak." What this highlights for me is the importance of active listening. If we truly listen with the goal of understanding the other person, rather than saying what we think or want, we can strengthen our relationships rather than destroying them. The American novelist Ernest Hemingway said, "When people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen." The reality of life is that we are busy and there are many things competing for our time. Too often, we only hear parts of what other people are saying to us. And unfortunately, this is even more the case when we are dealing with our loved ones. When you are in conflict with those that are close to you, be it your brother, your mother, a friend, or partner, the best thing you can do is listen. Former President Barack Obama said, "Learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make that happen." As you look to become future leaders, it is important to keep in mind the role that empathy and compassion play in leadership. Simply taking a moment to consider how the other person feels can provide us with new ideas as to how to solve a dispute. Thank you very much. We wish you well as you navigate through the conflicts that arise in your lives and ask that you apply the tools that we have shared with you today.
Thank you, Izzat and Azul, for the inspiring thoughts on positive problem-solving skills, solving everyday problems with empathy. I was most impressed with you, Izzat and Azul, on your role of mom, perfect mom, and the son Adam. You took us to different techniques with the intent of explaining us how you can respond when you are in conflict. Thank you for giving such an insightful demonstration of how to use those techniques and skills. Through your discussions and by using the scenario method, you have left us with several very important skills that we can all put in use when there is a conflict, including the active listening, the addressing emotions through recognizing, respecting, and responding, like you described the 3 R's. A key takeaway, it is important to the importance of using in dealing with conflict, empathy, how you acknowledge and recognize other people's feelings, and you try to understand also their point of view or their side of the story. It's very important. On a personal note, what was interesting to hear is that when there is a situation of conflict, it is how we deal with conflict that is extremely important. Like Azul says, it's more important to deal with it rather than to avoid it. And like Izzat complements and very well, using the active listening skills, you listen to understand rather than respond. The tools you have shared with us today will help us deal with conflicts in a more peaceful way, in a more positive and constructive manner. We will have some questions for you to answer from our participants in just a moment. But first, let me ask you something. How can I let someone know that I am actively listening?
Thank you very much for that question, Zara. So there are two aspects to letting somebody know that you are actively listening. We talked about verbal communication and we talked about non-verbal communication. On both sides, you can demonstrate and let the other person know that you're actively listening. When we look at verbal communication, we talked about the words used. So it's about using empathetic words, showing compassion, reflecting the words spoken by the other person to show him or her that you're listening, summarizing what you've heard, and asking questions to learn more. When we look at nonverbal communication, it's about basically the body language, the eye contact, the movements of the head to signify that you are following the speaker, just like what you're doing right now, and the personal pace, while being mindful of social distancing in today's time, and also the tone of voice.
Fantastic explanation, Lizette, and it reminds me how non-verbal communication is important. I must just add something, that we had a mentor who used to say that we had two powerful tools also, is our silence and the smile, because a smile can resolve a lot of problems and silence can avoid a lot of problems. Thank you. And that also takes me to my second question, which is, what could we do, actively we do, to keep an open mind as we get upset and frustrated?
So I think I'm going to answer this one. And what I'd suggest first is simply just breathe. Too often we're too quick to respond when we hear information from someone else. I'd say take a moment and take it in. And then some other tools perhaps might be, suggest you take a break. Perhaps go for a walk, go get a drink of water. Another idea might be to express your feelings in writing. So, take a few moments, make some notes. I've often used draft emails. Now, of course, I say draft because you don't want to send that email with your venting, but you could put something in draft, come back, reflect on it, and then go and continue the conversation. The biggest thing is take a moment, pause, and only then respond.
Thank you, Azul. These are actually great tips to put forward.